is the Herd Line News.
Now, this is an interesting one that I did not see coming. So Russell Wilson and Justin Fields were both at quarterback last year for the Steelers. Jay Glazer had the big scoop that Russ will not be back. Well, now there are new reports emerging that there is some divisiveness in Pittsburgh. The owner, Art Rooney, wants to bring back Russ. Mike Tomlin wants to go with Justin Fields, according to this report. The Steelers are also getting linked to Stafford. Maybe they're able to get in the bidding war. Everybody knows Aaron Rodgers and Tomlin have a long-standing history of friendship. Colin, I'm surprised because usually Pittsburgh's a buttoned-up franchise. They've got their act together. It's gotten squirrely post-Ben, and now they have like a divide among what to do at quarterback. I don't know how this ends, Ed.
Well, this is all on the Steelers. When Ben was aging, they drafted Mason Rudolph. Ben didn't like it, and they were like, okay, we don't want to offend Ben. Well, the Packers offended both Favre and Aaron Rodgers when they were close to their prime. Get over it. Belichick drafted a quarterback every third year with Brady in his prime. Get over it. So, to me, you deserve, it's like Democrats that complain about Trump. It's your policies that got him elected. You're complaining about your quarterback situation. It's because you didn't take it seriously for years. The Steelers have earned this. And then by the time it was too late, it was a terrible quarterback class, and you reached on Kenny Pickett, who I was told was a third-round pick. This is all the Steelers with a defensive culture, spending all their money on the wrong side of the ball, and now they look up and they're like, they've got 2 C-plus quarterbacks. That's and for the record, in a division with Lamar and Joe Burrow. Okay, who are 2 of the best 4 quarterbacks. So I have no sympathy for people that create their own mess. Yeah. This is all on the Steelers.
What's your best guess? We have no idea how this is going to play out, but does the owner win? Does Tomlin win? I find it hard to believe that Tomlin wants Fields when he's the one who put Russell Wilson in, and despite Fields being good. Remember at the beginning of the season?
Yeah. Is it fair to say this? I can't take the Steelers seriously as an elite franchise until they take offense seriously. And that's how I feel about them. If you told me right now the teams next year that I'm going to take seriously, Washington just emerged as a new team. And it's, Chargers, Rams, Niners, Eagles, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo. It's the teams that, even if you have a defensive coach like Buffalo. So Buffalo's got Sean McDermott. They draft Cook. They've gone out and got Stephon Diggs and Amari Cooper. They have drafted a first-round wide receiver and a first-round tight end. Buffalo may have a defensive coach, but I wouldn't say it's a defensive culture. They have absolutely poured resources, money, and draft capital into offense. Now, they overpaid for Von Miller, but Pittsburgh, I think they're going to lead the NFL. Didn't they lead the NFL for the 3rd straight year with defensive spending?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, that's on you. No sympathy.
The Bills got it. They got the memo when the Chiefs keep outscoring them in the playoffs. The Steelers keep getting their butts kicked in the postseason and haven't learned any lessons. They keep doing the same thing. What are we doing at quarterback? Not great in Pittsburgh. Let's go to the Detroit Lions. They got bounced unceremoniously from the playoffs by the Commanders and your guy, Jaden Daniels. So then they lose both offensive coordinator Ben Johnson and DC Aaron Glenn. Everybody's concerned about a pullback. Well, Aiden Hutchinson is in the midst of his rehab following that broken leg this season and believes that losing both coordinators will not have much of an impact.
I don't care who they bring in to coach us. Obviously, keeping Dan there is what we all want, but coordinators, position coaches, it doesn't matter. It's as long as we have the right guys in the locker room and those foundation guys on offense, on defense, you can roll anyone in there to call the plays, and at the end of the day, it's going to be the playmakers who are making those plays on Sundays. So that's as long as we keep our core group, and keep everyone there, we're gonna stay in this window of winning.
The Philadelphia Eagles are a great example. That is not true at all. There is a big gap between the best pilots in the sky today and the worst. The Philadelphia Eagles lost Shane Steichen. They hired an OC that was over his head, and they went on didn't they lose the last 10 weeks? They
started 10-1, but then cratered at the end of the season.
I got news for you. In baseball, a manager can win 4 games, maybe 6 over the course of a season. In the NBA, it's hard to screw up LeBron in his prime or Magic or Bird in his prime. In football, Brandon Staley and Jim Harbaugh, Same roster defensively.
Yeah.
Worst to second best.
I didn't.
Football is the coaching sport.
I don't like this take from Hutchinson at all.
I think
for such a smart guy who's such a great player. What? Coaching doesn't matter? We get to keep Dan Campbell. Who cares about Ben Johnson?
Well,
what?
And Dan's not a scheme guy. Dan is really known as a culture guy.
He's a rah-rah guy.
And nothing wrong with that.
No.
I was wrong on Dan Campbell. I never thought, but he deserves all the credit in the world.
Sure.
But he's not Andy Reid. He's not McVay. He's not a scheme guy. He's a culture guy. So the Lions are going to be more dependent on scheme assistance than the Rams would be, than Andy Reid would be. Andy Reid can lose guys every year. He's the scheme guy. Same with Shanahan. Can run through guys. That's different. When you're a culture guy, even what Jim Harbaugh would tell you, defensively, Harbaugh, he'll spend money on a defensive coordinator at Michigan or with the Chargers or the Niners. Like the coaches know what they are and what they're not. So Detroit is going to be much more reliant on good offensive coordinators than a McVay or a Reid team would be.
Yeah. Final story, Colin, to the NBA. We were on break last week when we missed it. Victor Wembanyama is going to miss the remainder of the season because of deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder, a.k.a. blood clots. It's just horrific news for Wemby, the Spurs, the league. Everybody likes Wemby. I thought for sure they'd be in the playoffs this year. Despite De'Aaron Fox, they will now miss the playoffs. It's almost certain. And I know a lot of people are concerned about the Chris Bosh. Blood clots really ruined his career. I think Wemby's going to be okay. This is a shoulder as opposed to the legs for Bosh. I'm hopeful. We were worried about Wemby getting injured. And
I'm going to throw this at you. So I saw somebody in our space had said that they don't believe an international player can be the face of the NBA. So, and I was thinking about that a lot, and I don't know if they can or can't. I would say, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the best player in the league for a decade and didn't want to be the face of the league. I think a lot of being the face of the league is, do you want to be? Like Ant, to me, feels like he's dynamic, he's good looking, he's funny, he could be a face of the league, he just plays in Minnesota. So what is your take? Can you be an international player and be the face of the league?
Yeah.
So I think so, too. I think, now, I'm not saying...
Well, time out. Let me ask a question. What does face of the league mean?
Okay, so that's a great question, because that was my first take. Face of the league means you are, like, for instance, Patrick Mahomes. For years, it was Brady and Manning were the face of the league. I think Brett Favre, in his prime, felt like, even more than Brady, face of the league. Tom felt like a component of the system in New England. Then as Tom aged, he and Peyton became face of the league. Wholesome guys, workaholics. Okay, Mahomes now feels like, hey, the face of the league. Again, good guy, funny, good sense of humor.
Well, hold on. You just named 4 guys. One common thread for all of them. They won multiple Super Bowls. Like, you win, you can be the face of the league, right? Would you agree?
Well, it's different. So
no, all those guys are
okay, I'll give you an
winners.
example. When Charles Barkley was a great player in his prime, he didn't want to be, remember, he was doing, I'm not a role model.
Yeah.
He was getting into trouble. Barkley was funny, but I don't think you'd want him as a face of the league, but he was great.
Not in the Magic
Michael
Bird.
Jordan was much more corporate.
And he won. You got to win to be the face of the league.
Yes, you have to win
So
some.
Anthony Edwards is out. Sorry. I love Ant. He can't be the face of the league. They're not winning. It's got to be Luka.
But I think it's stylistic. For instance, you can't be I always joke that Alex English led the NBA in scoring in the 80s, but he wasn't dynamic enough in a very creative league to be the face of the NBA. He just scored a bunch of points. So there's guys like face of the league. To me, generally means, honestly, you're a little bit corporate. I mean, Brady was kind of corporate. Jeter was kind of corporate. I mean, let's be honest. Michael Jordan, Nike, was corporate. He didn't want to talk politics. It tends to be somebody that the league looks at and says they don't get in trouble. Often, they're good looking. Their game is dynamic. And all of a sudden, stuff gets pushed in their direction. I think it's possible for an international guy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Wemby wants it.
Not yet. He's like 21, 22. Like, right? I think Wemby or Luka will be the face of the league next 5 years, right? Because there isn't anyone on the Celtics who really wants it. It's not going to be Tatum. I don't think it could be Jaylen Brown. Celtics are the best team.
Do you have to have, like right now in baseball, I don't know if there's a face of the league, but Ohtani,
yeah. Come on.
and I don't think he cares that he's face of the league. He just happens.
he
I
is.
would say he and Aaron Judge are the face of the league. Big, nice guys, humble, gigantic athletes, superstars, huge brands. Aaron Judge feels like face of the league with Ohtani. I'm not sure a league has to have one.
Do you think Giannis was when they won the title a few years ago?
No, I just think he was great. I mean, good God. And NBA, remember when it was like the COVID year and they were putting him on at noon on NBA TV, a playoff game? Remember that? It was like the league was telling you.
Yeah.
He doesn't. It's also, I think, harder to be a face of a league when you're 7 feet and above, because I think that's
People can't relate.
you don't sell as many shoes as forwards and guards and ball handlers and playmakers. Yeah. J-Mac with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd